All right, so in this video, let's talk about the purpose of health insurance. So basically, we have a few key points to think about as it relates to the purpose of health insurance. First off, there is the potential or the possibility of future significant healthcare treatments. They're going to have high costs. Just if you're alive and breathing, that's possible. So whether that is a situation where you get in a car accident, you have a hospital stay, or you break a leg, or a cancer diagnosis, fill in the blank. Basically, the idea here is there's the possible future significant healthcare treatments are gonna occur. And so the idea behind the health insurance is basically to help protect you from being financially wiped out or severely set back if those kinds of events occur. So that's kind of one of the main purposes that we have here, is that we have that potential, and so we're trying to address that. Now, with that in mind, that means we have a couple of different possible strategies, as is typically the case when we have risks, to address that. So we could engage in risk transfer or risk minimization or risk acceptance for this. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit. So risk transfer would basically be I buy a health insurance policy, and at least for the things that are covered by the health insurance policy, I've essentially transferred that risk to the insurance company. So that makes a lot of sense, particularly for catastrophic kinds of events. So think, heart attacks, hospitalizations, strokes, cancer diagnoses, for sure, things like that. It just makes a lot of sense because those would be financially devastating to most people. And so it makes sense to pay some money up front and try to transfer that risk. There are also some things we could do on the risk minimization front that would also help from the standpoint of health costs. So to kind of use an easy example, you don't smoke, right? So if you don't smoke, then we've lowered our risks significantly in certain areas, risk of lung cancer and so forth, right? So changing our behaviors can also help to minimize some of the costs we would expect to have with healthcare. You could not smoke a day and still wind up with lung cancer. It's possible. But we do know, statistically speaking, that your odds of getting lung cancer are a lot worse if you've been smoking a whole lot. So from that standpoint, we can minimize those risks a bit by changing our behavior. Also, if you generally eat more healthily, you exercise, you get an appropriate amount of sleep, all those kinds of lifestyle sort of choices tend to decrease the odds of you getting a major illness. Now, important note on decrease the odds. Those kind of lifestyle choices cannot prevent you from ever getting sick, right? You could still wind up getting sick even if you made all the sort of right choices, right? But statistically speaking, they lower your probability of getting a lot of the different kinds of major diseases and things. Doesn't mean you're never going to get sick, but it lowers the probability. So we could engage in some risk minimization to kind of address the potential for some of those nasty healthcare costs down the road. And also, you could hit a point where you kind of reach a certain degree of risk acceptance. So let's suppose you are advanced in years and you are thinking that you've gotten to the point where you just really wouldn't want to do a whole lot of really significant interventions from a health standpoint. Well, in that case, you may not necessarily feel as compelled to have some of the same degrees of health coverage. You might have kind of reached a point at which you decide, you know what, I've been on this earth for, I don't know, say 95 years, and I just don't see the need to try to drag things out drastically. And if I get a terminal diagnosis, so be it. So sometimes people kind of get to that point. That'd be more of a risk acceptance kind of a scenario. For a lot of people, the younger you are, probably the more you're going to want to kind of try to provide some protection from bad financial costs and make sure you can get the health care that you need to kind of extend your life and so forth. So in those cases, it's probably for generally younger individuals, it's going to skew more towards risk transfer, risk minimization, maybe accepting a certain degree of risks for unlikely, not too expensive events, things like that. But that'd be kind of the idea. Now, importantly, as it relates to, I've already mentioned sort of age here, healthcare costs are very much correlated. So there's a strong correlation with age. And what that means is the older you get, the higher your costs are likely to be. And if you know anybody who's a little bit older, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you have grandparents or even parents, things like that, a little bit older, um, good chance they're on, particularly for grandparents, one or more prescriptions. You go visit them, and like their medicine cabinet's practically a pharmacy in there with all the different prescriptions they're taking. And so I guess what I've told people in the past with that is, basically you have seen the future. Okay, so that's pretty much what's coming, and you may not be facing that right now. Generally speaking, people who are, say, in their 20s and statistically tend to not have huge amounts of health issues going on. Some of them do in that age group, but by and large, the proportion that have major health issues going on in their 20s tends to be a lot lower. So it can be easy to kind of feel like you're sort of invincible and nothing's going to happen when you're that age. But the reality is it's coming. And so sometimes it happens earlier than for others, but in general, it's coming for everybody at some point. And by the time you get to an advanced age, there's a strong probability, statistically speaking, that you're going to wind up taking some kind of prescription. You're going to have some kind of health issue going on, and so forth. So something to be mindful of. It's easy to kind of think when you're young, I don't need health insurance, but the reality is there's still the possibility of some pretty bad, catastrophic kind of events. But also, one of the things that's kind of significant is to be thinking about the fact that as you get older, health costs are going to probably consume a progressively larger portion of your budget too. So which means health insurance, if anything, just grows in importance year by year. Okay, hopefully that's been helpful to kind of give you some context for kind of the purpose of health insurance a little bit, and kind of how it helps you and why we need it. And hopefully you'll have a great day. Thanks for watching.